Hello, my name is Siobhan O'Carroll. I'm a second-year law student at Washington University School of Law. I also have participated in the Catholic Leadership Development Program with the CSC this year. This is my video presenting the Capstone project I completed for that program. I hope you enjoy. Hello, my name is Siobhan O'Carroll, and I'm a participant in this year's cohort for the Catholic Leadership Development Program at the CSC at WashU. In this video, I'm going to be presenting the Capstone project I completed as part of the CLD program. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your support of CLD and the CSC. For my project, I decided I wanted to serve in the area of immigration advocacy. Immigration reform is currently at the center of political debate. But before reform happens, the immigration system is continuing to operate, and it's continuing to have life-altering consequences for so many people in our country. In addition to those affected in our country, there's also a growing crisis at the southern border. This crisis is adversely affecting asylum seekers in particular. While people have the right to seek asylum, our country's current policies are threatening people's ability to do that in practice. Under these circumstances, asylum cases are becoming more numerous and more urgent everywhere around the country. Having access to legal representation for asylum seekers is also critical, because asylum applicants are 4 times more likely to succeed on their claims if they're represented by counsel. For my project, I worked with the Catholic charities organization St. Francis Community Services. St. Francis provides direct service in a variety of ways to thousands of clients in the St. Louis area. These services include legal aid for immigration-related issues through the Immigration Law Project. As a volunteer with the Immigration Law Project, I was able to work on an asylum case. To give you an idea of what a case looks like, I can tell you a simple version of this client's story. So, this client and her husband and their children were living in their home country. One day, there was a horrible accident. The husband was a lawyer, and he decided to help the victim seek justice after the accident, even though the perpetrator was closely connected to the state government. Even after receiving threats to stop his advocacy, the client's husband persevered because he couldn't stand to see the injustice. Because of her husband's advocacy, this client began to receive verbal and written threats and was physically harassed and threatened as well. Her husband was kidnapped and detained multiple times by state agents. Fearing for their lives, this client fled with her husband and their children to the U.S. So a lawyer who hears a story like this one has to identify key facts that are needed to make a legal argument. This image is of a portion of the regulations governing asylum, all of which is to show that it's difficult to prove that a person should receive asylum, and it's incredibly difficult for asylum seekers without counsel. Basically, though, asylum applicants must prove 2 things. First, they have to prove that they have a well-founded fear of persecution by the government of their home country. Second, they have to prove that persecution would be on account of a protected ground, such as race, religion, or political opinion. This document stack is meant to show you what it looks like in practice to put together asylum applications. Each application requires a huge amount of proof about the asylum claim, as well as comprehensive information about the backgrounds of every person seeking asylum. As far as my work at St. Francis, one thing I worked on was preparing the client's statement about her persecution so that the language was easily understandable and readable for the judge. I also researched and wrote a summary of the client's home country conditions to show why her fear was well-founded. You're probably familiar with this image of the coronavirus by now. Unfortunately, my project with St. Francis was cut short when the stay-at-home order went into place in St. Louis. I had initially planned to volunteer with a community outreach event as well, that unfortunately was also canceled. So everything I've been talking about with immigration and asylum has implications for the Catholic commitments to social justice and to the dignity of every person. Many Catholic communities across the country are involved with supporting immigrants and protesting current immigration policies. Much of this work is grounded in a 2003 joint letter issued by U.S. and Mexican bishops called Strangers No Longer. This letter offered pastoral guidance as well as suggested policy reforms. This was a landmark letter that is essential reading for understanding migration from a Catholic perspective. The letter affirmed the values of Scripture and Catholic social teaching as they relate to migration. The principles it identified included that persons have the right to migrate, that refugees and asylum seekers should be protected, and that the human dignity and human rights of undocumented migrants should be respected. In addition to Catholic social teaching, this project served the specific values of the CLD program. One of my cohort's primary values this year was forwarding the common good. I hope this project contributed to the common good by helping individuals in the St. Louis immigrant community. Another of my CLD cohort's values this year was service. I have tremendous respect for the lawyers working at the Legal Immigration Project and the people working at St. Francis and other Catholic Charities organizations, and I was proud to help them a little in the work that they do every day. Finally, another CLD cohort value was discernment. Completing this project gave me insight into legal immigration advocacy and into nonprofit legal work generally, and that will help me as I discern my future professional and service goals. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening, and again, thank you for your support for the Catholic Leadership Development Program and for the CSC.